Hello, everyone. On behalf of the Cooperative Monitoring Center at Sandia National Laboratories, I want to welcome you to our third virtual CMC seminar series event, addressing the present and the future of scientific collaboration to advance national security. My name is Tina Hernandez. I am the Senior Manager for Global Nuclear Security and Nonproliferation. We are excited to hear from today's speakers, but before we get started, just a few ground rules. First, want to make sure that everyone understands that this is an unclassified event. Please keep all questions and comments unclassified. Second, please mute your mics during the presentation to avoid accidental interruptions. Third, if you have questions for the speaker, email them to cmc@sandia.gov. That's CMC for Cooperative Monitoring Center at sandia.gov. Please do not type questions in the chat box. Our moderator, Ms. Natasha Peter-Stein, will try to ask as many questions as possible during our Q&A section after the presentation. Lastly, if this meeting fails or if you cannot hear the speaker, please exit the meeting and try to re-log in. I apologize in advance if there are any technology challenges. Now I'd like to turn it over to our speaker and the moderator for today's event. Please welcome Ms. Natasha Peter-Stein. Thank you.
Thank you, Tina. And again, welcome everyone. The Cooperative Monitoring Center at Sandia National Laboratories was created to demonstrate how technological cooperation can build trust and to provide a forum where experts can collaborate on scientific solutions to international security problems. For more than 25 years, the CMC has hosted and worked with experts from around the world to promote peace and security through science diplomacy. Today, the CMC celebrates the scientists and experts that are thinking across boundaries and beyond traditional problem sets to apply cutting-edge science, engineering, and technology to strengthen international security. Today's speaker, Mr. Steve Amundsen, has since 2017 acted as a task monitor with the International Safeguards Project Office at VNL. He coordinates the outreach and recruitment of Americans for opportunities through the IAEA, particularly in the Department of Safeguards. He previously worked at the IAEA Programs Office at Oregon National Laboratory in a similar role for non-safeguards departments of the IAEA. From 2004 to 2014, Mr. Amundsen worked at the IAEA in its Division of Human Resources Recruitment Unit, supporting recruitment for the Department of Safeguards, Nuclear Energy, and Nuclear Science and Application. So thank you, Steve, for sharing your insights with us today. The floor is yours.
All right. Thank you very much, Natasha. Thank you, Tina, also for the earlier introduction to our presentation today. My name is Steve, as you can all see here. I want to wish good morning to everyone, as well as thank you for taking the time to tune into the presentation about the international atomic energy and the kind of employment opportunities that are available. I'll be focusing on that particular area. We have a number of people who have come from the national laboratories, including Sandia, that have worked at the IAEA for either brief periods or more extended periods of time. So I would like to touch on today of those, how that you can go about, what kind of opportunities there generally are in the different departments, where the jobs could take place, not only at the IAEA headquarters, but other locations. And I also will speak a bit about the United States support program to the IAEA for the Department of Safeguards and other recruitment activities at Brookhaven, as well as Argonne National Lab. Okay, so moving next here. So here we have, this is the IAEA headquarters. For those that are not familiar, these are the United Nations buildings at the Vienna International Center in Austria. So the IAEA headquarters is located here along with some other international organizations. the United Nations office at Vienna, one of the main UN duty stations outside of New York, the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, known as UNIDO, the Preparatory Commission for the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty Organization, which is a mouthful, also is known as the CTBTO, and also the United Nations Office on Drug and Crime. There are a smattering of other smaller UN organizations that are located here, but those are the four main organizations, actually the five main if you include the IAEA. Okay, so next here we have, this is a photo of the IAEA's laboratories in Cybersdorf. There are two parts of it, the IAEA's Safeguards Analytical Laboratories, as well as the IAEA's Nuclear Applications Labs. So the IAEA Safeguards Analytical Labs, this includes the Environmental Sample Laboratory and the Nuclear Material Laboratory. On average, there are approximately 600 samples of nuclear material and over 400 environmental swipe samples that are received and analyzed by the labs each year here. The IAEA also has an on-site laboratory in Rokasha, Japan, which currently receives and analyzes around 80 samples per year. And when the Rokasha reprocessing plant is fully operational, it will be able to handle an additional 350 samples each year. The 8 IAEA nuclear application labs that are also located here at the Cybersdorf site, they support and implement activities that respond to developmental needs of member states in a range of subject areas such as applied research and development, training and capacity building to member states, and technical and analytical services. These labs include the following: the plant breeding and genetics, the animal production and health, the insect pest control, soil and water management, and crop nutrition, food and environmental protection, dosimetry, nuclear science instrumentation, and finally terrestrial environment. All right, this very lovely location by the seaside, this is the IAEA's Monaco Environmental Laboratories, which are the only marine laboratories within the United Nations system. The primary purpose of these labs are to help member states understand, monitor, and protect the marine environment, and to coordinate the technical aspects of international ocean protection training and assistance programs. Okay, so the IAEA, it hires an administrative and technical professionals from around the world. So each job, excuse me for a second here, while each job advertisement has its own unique set of knowledge, skills, and abilities requirements, all professional positions have a general set of criteria, which include a university degree in relevant subject. That could be a bachelor's, a master's, or a PhD. Relevant work experience to that specific job that's advertised. Candidates must be fluent in English, both spoken and written, as the working language is English, although there are other language requirements depending on the job location within, for example, the Department of Technical Cooperation. But also the ability to work in a multicultural and diverse work environment. There are over 100 nationalities currently working at the IAEA, so it is a very diverse working environment. Some additional qualifications that are often desired by the IAEA or assets, as I mentioned about the multilingual proficiencies, having some experience working internationally or in the context of international collaboration is also a strong asset. Knowledge of the agency's activities and its mission, that is often very much asked in the beginning of an interview if they're familiar with the IAEA, and good interpersonal skills, which will really be applied for any work location you might be. So looking at the office I work in, International Safeguards Project Office, we're located at BNL on Long Island, New York, and it's also known as ISPO, so the International Safeguards Project Office. We're part of the Non-Proliferation and National Security Department, which is chaired by Susan Pepper. So ISPO and the subgroup on safeguards technical support, known as the SSTS, we formed the United States Support Program to the IAEA's Department of Safeguards. The SSTS is composed of representatives from state, energy, defense, and the NRC. So we also have a representative from the DOE and NSA who chairs the SSTS, and the SSTS makes funding decisions in response to IAEA work requests. that come directly from the IAEA through the U.S. mission in Vienna through to our office, as well as the SSTS. So we're responsible for managing the day-to-day operations of the USSP, including making recommendations to the SSTS for pending IAEA safeguards requests. A lot of acronyms there. We also recruit U.S. citizens for positions in the Department of Safeguards. These positions consist of cost-free experts, which are more experienced professionals or subject matter experts, junior professional officers, which are university graduates with at least 2 years of relevant working experience related to the job and have to be between the ages of 18 and 32. And we also conduct outreach and promote opportunities, regular IAEA staff positions that are advertised directly by the IAEA. The cost-free experts and the junior professional officers are not advertised by the IAEA. They're either advertised by our office for Safeguards Department or the IAEA Programs Office at Argonne, which I'll go into a little bit more later. So speaking of those, the ANL, Argonne National Labs IAEA Programs Office, they support the Department of State regarding development matters and administer and conducts training courses on behalf of the IAEA. They place international fellows in the United States, process nominations of U.S. citizens to IAEA meetings and conferences, and recruit Americans for positions in non-safeguards. So they kind of we work on two sides of the coin. We focus on the safeguards, while the Argonne will be focusing on the non-safeguard side. So they do all the same as far as the kind of positions, regular staff, IAEA positions, cost-free experts, JPOs, and they also recruit interns for a program that they sponsor. So, looking at the Department of Safeguards, which I presume I hope the majority of you are familiar with, we hire a wide variety of professionals in several fields. So here are just some of the examples of them that they typically advertise, and some of their cost-free experts will be involved with. So candidates for the nuclear safeguards inspectors, the first one listed on there, they should have an education in nuclear engineering, physics, chemistry, or some other fundamental sciences, and ideally have extensive hands-on experience in a nuclear facility or a nuclear fuel cycle experience. U.S. inspectors that are coming, for example, from the NRC often have a variety of work experience before coming to the agency. You don't necessarily have to be an inspector prior, but that does help. In the last 5 years or so, the selection of new inspectors included some former cost-free experts and junior professional officers. Those are advertised once a year, with P3 being the entry level and up to a senior inspector at the P5 level. So the IAEA's Department of Nuclear Sciences and Applications cover a broad range of sectors, from human health to food and agriculture and the environment, water resources and industry. It also assists member states meet development needs through nuclear science, technology, and innovation. It also works with laboratories, universities, and research facilities worldwide through the IAEA Collaborating Center scheme. Much of the activities and research in this department takes place at the IAEA's laboratories in the photo I showed earlier, the Cybersdorf labs, as well as in Monaco. And here listed are just a few of the general areas that they often are looking for candidates for, with backgrounds in these disciplines. So next here, the IAEA's Department of Nuclear Safety and Security, so I'll focus first on the nuclear safety side of that. They develop and help implement safety standards for radiation protection, radioactive waste, and transport, as well as standards for nuclear installations during site evaluation, design, construction, and operation. It also provides a wide range of capacity building services, peer reviews, and advisory services to member states. The department also has an incident emergency center, which acts as the global focal point for international emergency preparedness, communication, and response to nuclear and radiological events in emergencies. Fukushima is a prime example of that when that occurred, regardless of whether they arise from an accident, negligence, or any deliberate act. On the nuclear security side of it, of this particular department. The IAEA assists member states in establishing and maintaining nuclear security systems and measures for the preparation and detection of and response to nuclear and other radioactive material outside of regulatory control. It is also responsible for activities related to establishing and sustaining nuclear security systems for nuclear and other radioactive material in use, the storage, and during transport, as well as associated facilities. Finally, it helps establish and maintain the mechanisms required to collate, and analyze nuclear security-related information required for the effective implementation activities to strengthen the international nuclear security regime. Okay, nuclear energy. The IAEA's Department of Nuclear Energy provides support in the field of nuclear economics and energy system planning, sustainable development issues related to the environment, and information management and information dissemination, and nuclear knowledge management. The department also supports countries operating nuclear power plants and enhancing their performance and the safe long-term plant operation and the effectiveness of engineering processes for new builds, and helps increase capacity in member states to use advanced management and resource management development methods. It also assists member states embarking on nuclear power programs in the planning and building their national nuclear infrastructures. Finally, the department also focuses on the safe, secure, environmentally sound, and cost-effective activities that support nuclear power, including the fuel cycle, waste management, decommissioning of nuclear installations, and environmental remediation. Access to the operation of research reactors, and waste management strategies and technologies covering all activities that generate radioactive waste, including disused sealed radioactive sources. A lot of activities going on throughout the IAEA. So I combine these two departments of the IAEA, the technical cooperation and management. They often have a lot of the same expertise they're looking for to carry out their activities. So in the Department of Technical Cooperation, they're responsible for formulating and delivering the IAEA's development mandate. So the agency's technical cooperation with member states aims to promote tangible socioeconomic impacts, supporting the use of nuclear science and technology to address major sustainable development priorities at the national, regional, and interregional levels. So the Department of Management of the IAEA provides a platform of services to enable the agency to successfully deliver its scientific and technical programs and provide solutions across a wide range of financial, human resource management, administrative, IT, and general services to meet the needs of the Secretariat, as the IAEA itself and its staff, and its member states. So as you can see here, it covers a wide range of different fields. So, all right. So looking at the next one here is the different types of job categories. So this gets a little more in. I kind of explained what all the different departments of the IAEA generally focus on as best I could in a short period of time, but of course that's not doing it justice. You could have a separate presentation on every department of the agency. But looking at now at some of the different types of job categories, these are engagements that you could have working at the IAEA. So those include regular staff positions, which are advertised by the IAEA. Those are initial for 3 years, which I'll go into more detail as well. You have also temporary or extra budgetary positions, consultancies, the previously mentioned cost-free experts and junior professional officers, but also internships. And I'll go into a little more detail on each one of these. So generally, some staff qualifications, let's get a little better understanding with how they're graded, for example. Within the UN system, the IAEA included, you have for professional internationally recruited jobs, gradings from a P1 up to P5. So I don't have P1 listed here because really the IAEA doesn't advertise any of those at P1 level. P2 is more of the lowest level, entry level, I guess you can call it, for a professional staff member, where it only require a bachelor's degree and 2 years relevant working experience. P3s and P4s make up the bulk of the positions at the IAEA. They require a bachelor's degree or an advanced degree And for P3 is 5 years minimum working experience and 7 years for P4. P5, this gets a little more very senior technical as well as managerial positions, an advanced degree with minimum 10 years experience. And each one of these grades will have, each one of the positions advertised will have specific requirements that are detailed in the job description, which are posted by the agency as well as our cost-free experts and JPOs. And regular positions have an initial contract of 3 years, which can then be further extended up to a maximum of 7 years, which is the mandatory the rotation policy of the IAEA, that's 7 years maximum working at the IAEA before a break will be required. All right, so looking a little more detail about the regular staff type of positions. So these are typically going to be mid to late career professionals working at the agency. And as I mentioned earlier about the 5 up to maximum of 7 years, it fluctuates the total number of staff members, and this is all regular positions as well as people on shorter, different kind of contracts. Around 2,500 is what the total number currently working at the IAEA. From the United States, this is an issue. This is a subject that we often are tracking and looking as a large contributor to the IAEA's regular budget. It's in our interest to have a good representation from the United States. So we're looking at approximately 10 to 11% currently of the total number of staff members that are American working at the IAEA, which is the highest. It's over 100, and I think it's over 170 member states of the IAEA. So, and they do try to have a wide geographic distribution with their staff. So having that number from just the United States it's a good thing to have, and we try to always work on getting as many as we can. The IAEA's vacancies are always posted on the agency's website and all their type of positions they have, and anytime you wish to apply for them, you would have to do so online. So the temporary assistance and extra budgetary positions, these are also advertised by the agency. Some of them can be unadvertised, and those are typically going to be for somebody who is maybe local. They need somebody on a short-term need, like 1 year or so. But those are, most of them will be advertised on the IAEA's website. The duration is shorter versus a regular position. The unadvertised can be only a maximum of 2 years, while the advertised ones typically can go up to 5, though that's not a guarantee. The grade levels are going to be the same as the regular IAEA positions from P1 up to P5. Salary, most of the salary is effectively the same. However, there are some benefits or entitlements that could be varied depending on the duration. So if it's a 1-year assignment on an advertised TA or extra budgetary, then you might not get everything that a regular staff member would, but it's minimal. So the other type of assignments that the IAEA currently has advertised and sometimes unadvertised are consultancies. And they are broken into 2 different kind of categories, ones that are at home, home-based ones, remote, as a lot of people are doing nowadays, or they could be at the IAEA's headquarters. And these are generally about the same duration, maximum duration as a temporary assistance position, up to 2 years maximum. Typically, they're going to be shorter, 6 months or for 12 months. Staff consultants are paid via a daily fee, which range depending on the qualifications of that particular individual and the complexity of the consultancy that they would be providing. There are no benefits because as a consultant, it's kind of an outside contractor coming in. So there are no benefits that's the same as a staff member would receive. There is some travel that could be possible. If so, there is a per diem that's provided to those consultants. And unlike regular IAEA positions or staff positions which have a mandatory retirement age of 65, consultants can go up to the age of 70 working at the agency. All right. All right, so looking now at the cost-free expert positions, which are advertised by our office, or as well as the Argonne's IAEA Programs Office. So we call them cost-free experts because they're still being paid. They're not free. In the essence, they're not getting any salary. They're cost-free to the IAEA. So there are no costs in the U.S. government or any member state that has agreements to provide these professionals to the agency are covering the costs. the total compensation, which would be the salary, the benefits, relocation. In the cases of U.S. Cost-free experts, the taxes that they would have to theoretically pay on their salaries. So cost-free experts are typically addressing short-term or technical projects for which the agency does not have the necessary expertise, or in some cases sufficient expertise. They vary in length from 2 to 5 years. The majority of those in safeguards are up to 5. However, some labs do limit the number of time, the duration of their staff going to work outside of their laboratory to 2 to 3 years. Currently, we have approximately 19 cost-free experts in the Department of Safeguards, and we have actually a few of them starting in the next few months. So some of the general qualifications and requirements for a cost-free expert. Normally, we're looking for U.S. citizens. However, there are times where we might open it up to all nationalities. As cost-free experts are typically P4 or P5 grade, they would need to have an advanced university degree and at least 7 years or more working experience that's relevant to the job. Each one of the positions that are advertised will have the specific requirements, specific expertise that are needed, technical expertise or experience in a particular work environment. The initial contract is 2 years, which I mentioned earlier can then extend it up to 5. And the safeguard CFEs are advertised on our website at Brookhaven. And the non-safeguard CFEs are advertised on Argonne's website or by the DOE and NNSAs. Sometimes they'll have some internal ones that are just advertised through the NNSA. Anytime you wish to apply for any of these CFEs, you're not applying to the IAEA, you're actually applying to our office. We typically require a cover letter, updated resume, and we have an additional checklist that we ask candidates to fill out. You will still eventually need to fill out a profile on the IAEA's website, but just to initially apply to any of our advertised, you don't need to do that. All right, so the junior professional officer positions, these are going to be at the P2 level, advertised by the agency, or advertised by our office, excuse me. That would require a bachelor's degree and a minimum of 2 years working experience that's relevant to the job. The assignments through the Department of Safeguards are up to 3 years, so it's initially for 2 years, which then can get extended a 3rd year. As I mentioned earlier, there is an age restriction for the junior professional officers. This is a part of the agreement that the U.S. has with the IAEA. And the JPO program is not exclusive to the IAEA. The United Nations as a whole has this program as a means to get younger professionals to work within the UN system, so that the age range is set by that UN-wide program. Currently, we have quite a few JPOs working at the IAEA in all the different departments. There are over 20 currently, including 13 working in the Department of Safeguards, and we have several more starting working over there soon. We have the Argonne's program office does have several JPOs advertised right now, which I would encourage you to have a look at as well. All right, so some of the qualifications for our JPOs, as I mentioned, similar to cost-free experts, normally we're looking for U.S. citizens, college degree, 2 years experience, also the age range I mentioned, as well as the P2 level. And here we have a picture of, actually they were all JPOs. They have since moved on to other roles. Some of them are at different labs, some are working in a higher level position. The woman on the right side. The gentleman on the left, he's now working at the NEA outside of Paris. So it's a great pipeline for young professionals or interested in working at the agency to have a look at those JPO positions. The other category of position for young adults, recent graduates, or current students is the internship program. So there are 2 parts to that. There's that program itself, which is administered by the agency, and they typically accept about 100 to 120 interns per year. All their interns receive small monthly stipends, which up to 1,000 euros. The duration of these internships, I've seen them mostly about 6 months, but they can go a little bit less, down to 3 months for like a summer one, for example. A lot of times they can also be for up to a full year. Minimum, they have to be at least 20 years old, have to be completed at least their junior year in college, so they're 3 years of university studies. If the candidate has graduated, they have a 1-year window after graduation of either the bachelor's or master's or a PhD to be eligible. So the program itself really focuses on current students who have at least that 3rd year or very recent graduates, and there's no age limit. I remember one particular case when I was working at the IAEA. I was helping to administer the internship program. We had a gentleman who worked for a number of years, decided to go back for university studies, and he applied and was selected for an internship, and he was 58 years old. But hey, we didn't really care because this is a program to focus on students. The Argonne-sponsored internships are in the non-safeguards departments. They offer all the same things with the stipend, medical insurance. It's for a 1 year in duration, and they include round-trip airfare for the interns that they select, and they also provide an installation grant to help offset some initial costs for an intern when they arrive. And they have actually several of them that are advertised right now as well, and that will be starting for the summertime. Okay, so this is a new program. The IAEA launched this fellowship program in 2020 to help close a persistent gender gap in the nuclear field. So named after the pioneer physicist and Nobel Prize laureate, Marie Sklodowska-Curie. I'm sorry if I did mispronounce that. I've been practicing that and I just can't quite get it. So the program aims to inspire and encourage young women to pursue a career in the nuclear field, providing highly motivated and talented female students scholarships for master's programs and an opportunity to pursue an internship at the IAEA at the conclusion. So selected students receive a scholarship for up to 2 years for master's programs in nuclear science and technology, nuclear safety and security, or non-proliferation studies at any accredited university in the world. They also provide an opportunity to pursue that internship for a full 12 months at the conclusion. So a little more details. So this was advertised and launched just last year. They made the first selection of 100 fellows that were awarded, and I believe the next advertisement should be coming up in the next few months for 2021. So if you know someone who is a graduate student, woman of course, that might be interested in this, have a look at it. It sounds like a great program. All right, so going now into some of the benefits of working at the IAEA. I talked a lot about the kinds of opportunities and a little bit about the benefits, but not specifically, so let's get into that. Salaries. IAEA salaries and other benefits are all determined by the UN Common System, the International Civil Service Commission. So it includes a tax-free salary, rental subsidies can be included, dependency allowances for children, education grants for children if they are attending different universities or primary, secondary education. There are relocation expenses that are covered by the IAEA to Vienna, as well as at the end of the assignment back, so repatriation back to the United States. A settling in grant. This is a kind of we call a relocation bonus to help offset initial costs for arrival into Vienna. That would include a 1 month full salary plus a per diem for 30 days for the individual and any dependents, which would be at half the rate. So that can be quite sizable. It's meant for deposits on rentals, for example, or if you need short-term accommodation until you find a longer-term solution. The IAEA also offers 6 weeks of annual leave from the start. That does not have to be earned after 25 years. It's immediate from the first year in working at the organization, or not, I shouldn't say the first year, but it is immediately. There's also something called compensatory time off for additional working hours you might put in. You can receive days off for that. There's limits, however. They have a very good medical insurance plan through, I believe it's Aetna currently, or Cigna, one of the two. And that's international. That can be used in Vienna. But you can also apply for the Austrian national system as well if you prefer, or you can do a combination of both. The pensions plan is quite generous, 15.8% contributions from the IAEA and 7.9% contribution from the staff member. Those are locked rates. That's not something you can change for as far as the employee contribution. There are plenty of opportunities for training and staff development. One example is language courses that might be available, but also in your own field to help with your employment, with your assignments. One note I do want to make about the IAEA salaries is that I said as they are not taxed. However, if U.S. citizens are working there, they are required by U.S. law to file tax returns. No matter how far you might move away, the long arm of the IRS wants to get their contribution. So should the total compensation from the IAEA exceed the foreign earned income exclusion threshold, which for 2020 was about $107,000, taxes will be applied to the amount above the threshold, but the IAEA reimburses for those taxes. So it's essentially becoming a tax-free salary. Okay, so the majority of people who are relocating to Vienna for an assignment do not have a family support network. They're coming from all over the world. They might not have enjoyed back home quite work if they move to Vienna. So to make the agency a more attractive employer, the IAEA aims to provide a supportive environment, which allows staff to combine work and family responsibilities. And some examples of these include a flexible working hours. So workdays can start between 7 and 9:30 a.m. They have a core time after 9:30, but starting can be flexible. Fully paid maternity leave for women of 4 months with an optional extended period of unpaid leave. And for men, 4 weeks of paid paternity leave if you were to happen to have children born in Vienna. There is a child care center located on the premises with opening hours that correspond to the agency's working hours. It can be difficult. It's very popular, the child care center. So there are other options outside of the VIC's child care center for bilingual or for English only child care. And something I also mentioned earlier in the previous slides was about education grant. It's just very substantial for any dependent children who might be attending primary and secondary school as well as university. It works on a sliding scale, but it's, as I say, it can be very, very substantial. Okay, so looking at just about living and working in Vienna itself, we actually had a webinar, a few weeks ago with some current staff members of the IAEA, U.S. citizens, who go into detail about their experience moving to Vienna, about actually living there. So if you're interested, we'd be happy to share the link later on. So Vienna itself is a very diverse, very culturally rich, long history in Europe. It's very close to other major cities. It's very centrally located. The transportation system is phenomenal. It's excellent. You have buses, you have trains, you have subway to be able to get you to all different parts of the city rather efficiently. It's consistently ranked either #1 or near #1 for the best quality of life in living in the world from Mercer. It's very safe, very low crime. They might have a little petty crime in certain areas, in tourist areas, but overall it's very low on crime. As I mentioned earlier, the agency's working language is English, and there's a lot of people who do speak English in the city as well. If you want to learn German prior to going, you can do so. There are also language courses available, not only in German, but also all the official languages of the IAEA. The VIC has a lot of services and facilities. I should say in normal times, but in COVID, it's probably a little different. But in normal times, you'll have a dry cleaning, you'll have a restaurant, there's cafeteria, there's a bank, there's a post office. As I mentioned, the child care services, child care center. So there are a lot of things available to you. Also, there's a commissary too. There's a lot of things available to you working at the Vienna International Center. Social clubs. As people are coming from all over the world, this is a great way to meet other people. Ski clubs, other types of sport clubs, social clubs. They have events. There's the Staff Association Ball every year in February. I don't know if they had it this year. Probably not. There's also a staff party every summer where you have all the talented staff members with their musical talents coming together to provide a show to people who work at the agency and other UN organizations. Extremely popular as well. All right, so now I'd like to go in a little bit about the process of applying. As I mentioned earlier, you can, when you apply to a CFE position or a JPO position, is sending your resume and a cover letter to us. But if you're applying directly to the IAEA, it's a little bit different. So their application process will be reviewed, and so there are a number of steps that they'll have. The first, when the agency advertises their position on their website, you'll need to go online and complete a profile and submit it to that specific position. The agency will review all the applications, and then the hiring manager will identify the most qualified candidates, and they'll conduct interviews. So the first step would be an online recorded interview. You would receive a link to go onto the IAEA's to a website to receive some questions, and you have to record yourself answering those. And based on those results, they'll move to the next step, which would be a live video conference interview with staff members from the IAEA, the relevant hiring manager, other technical professionals, somebody from human resources, be an interview panel on the IAEA side interviewing you. And that would typically last about 1 hour in length. The panel then makes a recommendation for the candidate they wish to appoint, and that will go through approvals, go through a panel, and then once it's approved, an offer will go out to the selected candidate. So we have a number of webinars on the subject matter about how to apply, how to prepare for interviews, for the online recorded as well as the live video conference interviews. Please reach out to us if you are considering it, and we can provide some advice and some tips. And we have a lot of information about the entire IAEA recruitment process, so you're more than welcome to reach out to us. All right, so with the recruitment process for JPOs and CFEs, it's, as I said, it's a little bit different, but initially you're going to be submitting an application directly to our office. We review, looking to check the candidates that meet the minimum requirements that are listed in the job description. We do a vetting and then submit those candidates over to the IAEA. They will do a review and then select candidates to interview. So it's a little bit similar process to the agency's regular positions. There's no online recorder, but there is a video conference live interview. They will make a selection or a recommendation. We receive it back through the U.S. mission. We confirm it and approve it, and then an offer will come then from the IAEA itself. And then the onboarding process would be exactly the same if it were a regular IAEA position. It's just the funding is coming from a different source. It's coming from the State Department or the DOE, so that would be a little bit different there. All right, so as just mentioned, we have a lot of materials available for individuals who are interested in applying to the IAEA. We can provide one-on-one consultations about job opportunities. We have a job alert email we send out on a weekly basis for the Department of Safeguards. You'll have a listing of all the regular positions, cost per position you might have available, JPO positions. Argonne does the same. They do it not on a weekly basis, but they'll send it on a per position advertised. You can select which fields you want to be interested in. Both our offices are able and willing to provide guidance to applicants on the preparation of their applications. We also have compiled a small list of some questions that typically ask from the agency. I personally have been on interview panels on the IAEA side for safeguards, for nuclear energy, nuclear science applications, so I generally have a pretty good idea of the type of questions they would have, the format. So if you want to apply, please reach out to me. I'll have a contact information at the end. We also have a guidebook available for people who are considering applying and also who have been selected. This has a lot of relevant and useful information for the transition. And as I mentioned, we have those other webinars available. The U.S. mission for international organizations in Vienna also monitors the employment of U.S. citizens. So if you are applying, please do let us know. We track people's applications. We let the mission be aware of it. And then we also can sometimes advocate if we know if you might be the only American who's on the short list. We can advocate to the IAEA that hopefully they'll select you. So for additional information, here is our contact information. Here's our web pages first for my office at ISPO, as well as the IAEA Careers Office, or excuse me, the IAEA Programs Office at Argonne. My name, my phone number, email, also the IAEA Programs Office contact information. That's where you can reach out and have any, like I say, anything in the process. You're applying, you're considering internships. I ran the program there, so I'm fairly familiar. If you have any children who are interested in applying, you name it, anything related to IAEA employment, please reach out to us. So that is all I have as far as the IAEA presentation. And thank you all very much for listening in. And I will now turn it back to Natasha, I believe.
But thank you for that excellent presentation, Steve, and sharing your insights with us. So there are several questions from the audience, so we'll try to address them as many as possible in the time allowed.
Sure.
So to our audience, remember, you can still submit your questions to cmc@sandia.gov. And as a reminder, please do not write question in the chat box. So the first question that we have, Steve, is what are the desired characteristics you look for in members or collaborators with the IAEA?
Yeah, that's a good question, because sometimes it's just not explicit in a position what they're really kind of looking for. So I would say you should not only be equipped for like the job technically, like you have that know-how to do that, but also have a perspective that's mature, and because you're going to be a person you're representing your lab, but also the United States. So you're coming into an environment where people need to be able to handle themselves, be quick learners, sensitive to different cultures. Things operate at a different pace there, in a different manner at the agency than they do compared to national labs. So being in tune to those differences and be able to be adaptable to that, I think is something they really look for in their candidates as well. So some of those intangible things.
Great. And also, what are the options? What options are there to work with IE aside from being hired on?
Yeah, there are consultancy meetings that will occur occasionally where the agency is seeking subject matter experts to assist with like a larger group with framing or augmenting like an important document the agency is, like a guidance document they're doing. For example, I reached out to some of my colleagues in our office about this, and there are what are called the physical model updates on mining and milling, and fuel fabrication, reactors, waste, and some other recent ones on acquisition path analysis in like similar areas like undeclared conversion, fuel fabrication, and now undeclared mining and milling. So for these consultancies, so you're not going to work at the IAEA, so you're going to be consulting for these documents. And so we, like our office, will tap into this talent that we know is in the U.S. labs, as well as the private sector. And sometimes the agency will give us specific names of people they want to be subject matter experts on these things, but other times they don't. They just say, can you provide us some people that can help with this document, or can be consultant? And then we will reach out to our points of contact at the different labs, such as yourself, Natasha, or our post-tax coordinators, but all the different labs that have these coordinators will reach out to them and ask for some SMEs. So those are some examples we had recently, and that's one way you could do some work with the IAEA without actually being hired on there.
Awesome. So also, what opportunities are there for R&D, consulting, and advocacy activities related to increasing the utilization of nuclear energy in a safe and economical manner to power economies worldwide?
Well, that's a little outside my wheelhouse and the kind of the scope of this presentation. So I think it actually would be better if that kind of question to be directed to the DOE's Office of Nuclear Energy or the Office of International Safeguards in DOE, because I wouldn't be able to answer that.
I understand. So another question that we received is at what point the U.S. was underrepresented within the IAEA workforce, and is it still the case? And if yes, does that mean that qualified U.S. applicants will get preference?
But right now, we are actually underrepresented at the IAEA. So historically, if you go back in the past when there were much smaller number of member states of the IAEA, the U.S. had a very large representation there. It's over time, you have more positions, you have more geographic distribution, and our percentages become smaller and smaller. But right now, we're at the lowest point for underrepresentation. So we are, like I mentioned earlier, we are very keenly aware of that. We have brought that to the attention of the IAEA Director General as well as his office to advocate that we increase this representation. And if you want to apply, now's the time. You would have the backing of the U.S. government.
Something else that we received regarding the Marine Lab in Monaco. Could you expand on its mission, and also what is its mission and how is it different from the lab in Cybersdorf?
Well, the Monaco lab is specifically focusing on the marine environment. They are looking at, for example, ocean acidification, how it is affecting the not staple crops, but like the shrimp industry or mollusks, and how that, which is a product that many countries rely on for not only for internal consumption but export, for example. So they also look at they use isotope tracers for the protection of like coastal environments. For mercury, they can do detection of it. I'm a little bit familiar. I haven't really focused on the marine labs in quite some time, but those are just some examples. So it's anything related to the protection of coastal environments, marine protection, the ocean acidification is a big thing that they're working on now. That is what they are doing there. The Cybersdorf labs is not focused at all on the marine. They are more the terrestrial environments, as well as, for example, I mentioned the like insect pest control, food and agriculture, anything that's more land-based, I guess you could call it, versus Monaco's activities there. But they're within the same department, just focusing on different areas.
And one last question for you, Steve. Are there also opportunities for working with CTBTO?
Yes, absolutely. I include in my email, the weekly one I send out, positions that are relevant to usually my audience, the audience that we have for non-proliferation, safeguards, and IT. Any CTBTO positions that are relevant. It's a smaller organization. I think they only have about 250 to 300 staff members versus a factor of 10 larger at the IAEA. But there are a lot of some similarities with the kind of backgrounds we're looking for at the CTBTO. So yeah, I would, and we know we don't have a whole lot of Americans working there either, because although the U.S. has signed to the CTBTO, but they have not ratified it. So that's a whole nother political discussion. But yes, I would encourage you to have a look there. If you are going to apply, please let us know. Please let me know, and I would inform the U.S. mission over in Vienna that you were interested in applying.
Great. Well, thank you so much again, Mr. Amundsen, for sharing your thoughts and expertise, and to our audience for your thoughtful questions. Before we conclude, I wanted to mention that you can find the recording of this talk and more information about the Cooperative Monitoring Center and its ongoing work by visiting cmc.sandia.gov. So from all of us at Sandia CMC, thank you for joining us today. We hope to see you at future Cooperative Monitoring Center events.